Hello and welcome to Mindful Living, where we explore the art of living with the intention, balance, and inner peace. I am Avik, your host, guiding you through conversations on health, meditation, mental well being, mindfulness, and the mind body connection. Each episode features expert insights to help you grow, heal, and thrive. So, take a deep breath, relax, and join us on this journey to a more mindful and fulfilling life. So, let's get started.
Hello and welcome, listeners, to the Mindful Living podcast. I'm your host, Sana, and today we have a truly special guest with us, Yogi Gabriel, a yoga teacher, Ayurvedic practitioner, sound healer, and death doula. Gabriel's journey from corporate executive to wellness practitioner is nothing short of inspiring for us. And today we'll dive deep into how ancient practices like Ayurveda, yoga, and plant medicine they help in holistic healing and also helped Yogi Gabriel from healing from chronic Lyme disease and how he's now pioneering Ayurvedic textiles, which are designed to enhance energy and expand one's aura. We'll also touch on the spiritual and physical healing benefits of these ancient wisdoms and how they resonate in our modern lives today. So, welcome to the show, Yogi Gabriel, and it's an absolute honor to have you with us.
It's an honor to be with you, so thank you for having me.
Okay, so your journey from corporate executive to a wellness practitioner, it's fascinating. So can you share how ancient practices like Ayurveda and yoga helped you heal from late stage Lyme disease?
Sure. Ayurveda wouldn't still be around if it wasn't effective. And yoga comes from the Vedas. Many people don't realize that the first time yoga was mentioned, it was in the Vedas. And so these two sciences, they are one, in my opinion. This was a way of life many, many thousands of years ago. And in Ayurveda, there's a lot of use of herbs. And to just kind of jump straight to the point, the plants are our friends. You know, they are the ones that put off the oxygen that we breathe.
Yes.
And it's a symbiotic relationship between them and us. And they also hold the keys to our health in many, many ways. I've come to realize that if it's not an energy that's causing the dis-ease within the being, then it most likely is some sort of microbiology most of the time. And this microbiology, the plants are also dealing with the same microbiology. And so they hold the keys to protecting us. And I can give you an example here in the West. Parasites are running rampant. Many, many people know about parasites today. And just
Yes.
one natural remedy is black walnut, the shell from or husk, the black walnut. And this is what's protecting the nut, right? This is the plant's protection. And so if we look to the plants and we look to nature, we can use those same tools to protect ourselves. A black walnut husk is really good for parasites. And so in Ayurveda, it's very similar concepts. Across continents, we have different plants, probably different pathologies as well. And in Ayurveda, we use a lot of oils, a lot of herbal oils, a lot of herbs. And very slowly, we reverse these symptoms of dis-ease. And then with the yoga side of things, when we're talking about microbiology, we're talking about pathology as well. And you can go to a doctor today and talk about the pathology that's causing your dis-ease, but what's missing from that conversation are which pathogens and which pathways. And when we start to talk about the pathways, now we are talking about yoga. The asanas are putting us in positions to allow the energy to flow through those pathways. And so the two go hand in hand. The yoga that I practice is Kriya Yoga, Kundalini Yoga. It's been called many things, but it combines most of the modalities within yoga: pranayam, drishti, mudras, mantras, asanas. And that combination seems to create a very powerful experience, which then wakes up the Shakti in us. And when that Shakti runs through the pathways, this is another way to change the frequency of the temple and move out unwanted visitors, let's call them. So the two together, by consciously using yoga and Ayurveda in symbiotic relations, have been very powerful in healing what I was going through. I don't want to understate the herbs, because it was 2 herbs in 3 days that got me out of bed. And so, one can do yoga, but the two together is really the key.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Ayurvedic textiles is, they are central to your work. So this is something very new, and listeners may not be familiar with this. So if you can explain the concept behind magic carpets and how they affect energy and human aura during yoga practice.
So, Ayurveda Textiles is really a word that I kind of coined. The real word is Ayurvastra. And Ayurvastra, Ayur means science, and Vastra means covering or clothing or cloth, something along these lines. I don't speak Sanskrit, so please, to those listeners listening and have a deeper understanding, please forgive me if I've spoken wrongly, but this is my understanding of it. And everything is energy, so everything is holding a frequency. And everything that's natural is also a part of the natural system. So when we use synthetics like nylons or others, that's just what comes to my mind today. The math of that material does not match the math of nature. And so what it does is it interrupts the energy flow and then makes our spirit body or our aura smaller. And when we have a large aura, when we have a large spirit body, this also protects us from like flu and stuff like that. So if we walk in a room and somebody's sick and coughing, and our energy body is very large and very big, we have protection from that. If it's small, then we're more susceptible to catching maybe what is in the room. Excuse me. The story about Solomon's magic carpet is it's funny because we've all seen these images of like the blue genie flying around on the magic carpet. But when our mind looks at that, it's like, yeah, well, how does that work? That this doesn't make sense. This is symbology. This is not us physically flying around on a magic carpet. But from what I understand from my own experiences, is that, for example, the Ayurvedic yoga mats or Ayurveda yoga mats that we're talking about, they expand our energy body. So if I measure your aura standing on the earth, and then I measure your aura standing on one of these mats, we can expect an expansion of your spirit body by 4 to 5 times. And this is very significant. This means if you have a 25-foot aura, and a healthy aura is 27 foot to the front and 27 to the back, 24 to each side, which when you think of 27 and 27, now we're at 54, half of 108. So we're into sacred geometry. But if you had a 25-foot aura from you to the front, then you can expect that on the mat, you'll be anywhere from 100 to 125. This expansion is not minute. This is a significant expansion. And it doesn't just go front to back, left to right. It's also in the king dome, or in your case, the queen dome. And if you imagine a dome above you, just like a musical scale, as we get larger and larger and larger, we go through the scales into higher and higher frequencies. And once that begins to happen, we basically are playing into the higher frequencies of spiritual consciousness, more connected to source. And so many of the mystical experiences that the yogis have been telling us about forever are found in those realms. They're found in those outer layers of the higher frequencies. So
Mm-hmm.
the story of Solomon's magic carpet is not about flying on a carpet. It's about expanding the energy body, the auric field, which is a torus, and a toric field. And when that toric field, which looks like a donut, expands, so does the center hole. That allows us to leave the temple or the body through the 10th gate. And when our energy body is fully charged and working properly,
Mm-hmm.
we also gain what are called cities, more control, right? We've all heard where your thoughts go, your energy flows, and
Mm-hmm.
we're also told to look up in meditation. And when we do this, we reverse that energy field. Most of us are looking down all day long, so the energy field's going out through the bottom of our feet and back in through the crown. But when we reverse this energy flow, it's almost like we are able to leave the temple. Let me back up. When the energy flow is going down and in through the crown, it's like holding us into the cup, so to speak. Our temple is a cup in this analogy. When we reverse that, the energy flows out through the crown and the opposite way, which kind of defies gravity. This is, I believe, how the monks are able to levitate, right? They're reversing the energy field, but then it also allows us to leave the temple. And the story of Solomon's magic carpet is he was traveling on the ley lines. So the ley lines are the same latitude, longitude lines that our phones are working on. This is an energy travel. This is a mythology or symbology of traveling spiritually, and so we are demystifying and finding truth in that. That story has stood the test of time, just like Ayurveda, because it is possible. It's our birthright. This is this is how powerful the science of Ayurveda, Ayurveda Textiles is that it has the power to take us into new dimensions and show us our highest truths.
Wow, that is ethereal. So you have, it's evident from how we have discussed that ancient wisdom it merges with modern living in your Ayurvedic yoga mats. So how can these textiles contribute to both personal well-being as well as environmental sustainability?
That's a great question. As far as personal well-being, recently we used what's called a BioWell machine, which is an FDA-approved device that measures the meridians of our fingers,
Mhm.
and each meridian is attached to a different portion of the body or a different organ, and so we can see deeper into the physical body what's going on with each organ, with the chakras, are they in alignment or not? And recently, about 3, 4 months ago, we filmed, and it's actually on YouTube under the Aura Mat channel. We filmed someone sitting in a chair with her feet on the ground, and both of these people in the video, they don't work for me. One of them is just a BioWell practitioner. The other one happened to be a customer that was in the booth when I was speaking to the BioWell practitioner about doing this, and she said, "Please sign me up. I want to be the person." So we tested her with her feet on the ground, and then we tested her sitting in the same chair with her feet on the mat. And in the beginning of the test, the first one, we saw that her chakras were out of alignment. She had a thyroid issue. The machine told us that her autonomic nervous system was dysfunctional. And then we put her on the mat and we watched the chakras come into alignment. We watched her third eye, heart chakra, and solar plexus light up. Her heart chakra, she went inward, which is what we want. And then the thyroid condition went away. And we watched when we read the report, it said that the autonomic nervous system went from dysfunctional, not to functional, but to optimal. And that's something I would have never said before. I definitely sense the energy, and I've been proving the energy for many years now. But I would never have gone as far as to say medically it's changing the autonomic nervous system and it's going to heal something like an organ or a thyroid or something like this. But when I saw that, I said, this is very interesting. Tell me what was going on with her organs. And in the first test, we saw that many of the organs on one side were underpowered and many of the organs on the other side were overpowered. And in the second test, it brought everything into balance. So in my mind, I'm always trying to draw a parallel as to how to explain this to people, and I like to explain it like a computer. Computers have been mimicked after us anyway. If you look at the math of how our cells reproduce, and then the math of the data and things that are going into the computers, they are a mimic of us. And so we plug our computer into the wall. Here in the States, it's 120 volts, and if you or watts, excuse me, 120 watts. If you were to plug your computer into like a 12-volt battery, that would be 10%, right? And we're told we're using 10% of our brains, and I believe it's due to the energy that's within us. And when I'm at my highest energetically is when all these magical, mystical, yogic experiences come through. And that's when this wisdom is available to me anyway. And so if I was only operating on 10% of the energy, of course, I'm not going to be running at my full optimum, what the body is intended to operate at. So by getting on the mat, expanding at least by, 3, 4, 5 times, now we're at least operating at close to half, I would hope. I don't know where the end is, because until we get to the end, I don't know where, the full capability or potential is. But when you empower the body, the DNA, the programming is there, and we see magical things happen. And so it is affecting the health. I have a stage 4 cancer patient who has neuropathy in her hands. And she sits on the mat all day just because she can feel the fingertips again. There are elders buying these mats to sleep on them. There is some Reiki masters, so hands-on energy healers, that are now buying this mat because they can feel and see deeper into their patients' bodies. So there's many, many applications besides yoga and meditation on the mat. But that is how I discovered it. And then please remind me of the second half. You had a 2-part question.
Yeah. So, how do these textiles also contribute to environmental sustainability?
Sure. So, excuse me, I'm not sure where that is coming from, but so environmental sustainability. Yoga mats today are made of synthetic materials, rubber, PVC, these types of things, and they're not natural. And when they get thrown away, there really isn't any good solution for it, right? That they don't break down, they don't decompose. And the textiles industry is the second worst polluter of water on the planet. And
Yes.
there's many, many, many rivers that are now dead. In Coimbatore, there's one that there's a Save the River project going on. In Coimbatore is in India, for the listeners who don't know. This river used to run very abundantly, lots of fish, and now the first 2 miles you might get a few fish, but the rest of it is dead, essentially, from what I've seen. So that's the textiles industry and others. I'm not going to blame it all on the textiles industry, but majority of it is the textiles industry. So by using plant dyes, just for an example, when I was in India in May, I drank from the kashayam, which is a dye bath. I literally stuck my hand in it and drank the water. It's non-toxic. It's natural. It's actually probably good for us. Although it didn't taste so great. I will tell you that. It was a bit bitter, right? But it's natural. And so when we get done dyeing the yarns for these mats, we actually pour that water at the base of the trees on the property where the work's being done, and it's beneficial to the earth and to the trees. If I were to bury one of these mats in a landfill, it's not going to harm the planet. So just like it's good for us, just like we started this conversation, what's good for the plants is also good for
Yep.
us, and vice versa. That's the relationship there.
Lovely. That is lovely. So, while sustainability is a growing concern, some critics might say that impact of individual choices, like using Ayurvedic textiles, is minimal in the face of larger environmental issues that we are facing now. How do you view the role of individual responsibility versus systemic change in sustainability?
Well, I think it's key. It's key to our own health. It's key to the health of those around us, and it's key to the planet. Consumption is really what you're speaking to. As
Mm.
consumers, we have a right to make educated choices.
Mhm.
And so often, most of us have grown up now in this era with synthetic, pretty much everything, right? Our clothes are made from synthetic materials, synthetic dyes. Our food is now becoming more and more synthetic. And the more we embrace that and allow that to continue, the more we're going to see more diseases, um, new problems with the planet. I just recently heard this week there are a bunch of trees, and I forget which country, that they're actually GMO trees because they're being made for paper. Well, what are the repercussions of that? Just like the repercussions of wearing, synthetic clothes to our aura. There's a repercussion to the Earth's aura too. Everything's alive, everything is energy. So the more mindful we can be in our consumption and the products that we choose to bring not only into our homes but also into our mouths, the better things will be. The more natural we'll get back to our roots. That's a good way to say it too. To our roots, um, as it was intended to be. If these things were intended to be here, they'd grow on the planet.
Absolutely true. So, your healing journey also included plant medicine. How do you see the role of plant medicine in addressing chronic illness, and how did it impact your personal healing?
As I mentioned, 2 herbs in 3 days, and I popped out of bed after a decade of being disabled. And I was so weak.
Mhm.
I was being pushed in a wheelchair by my daughter at a very young age when we traveled. I experienced things like Alzheimer dementia, where I grew up in a city my whole life and was driving my car and didn't recognize where I was, and then also forgot where I was going.
Mm.
So the pathology was in my brain. And what I knew it was in my brain. I knew it was also in my red blood cells, but I didn't know how to fix that. And I saw a video on YouTube of a gentleman saying these 2 herbs cure Lyme disease every single time first try. And I thought, this is too good to be true, but I'll try it. And I can tell you, upon taking the first dose under my tongue, I felt it cross the blood-brain barrier. And you can see today I'm very sharp. There is no problem with my brain. We just needed to, like I said, remove the pathology from the pathway. And in that case, it happened to be a pathogen in my brain. And once those herbs were administered to me, that happened very quickly. It's key, and even in Ayurveda, most of the treatments are oil massages or have to do with oil, which draws out toxins, and most of those oils are medicated with herbs. And so all we're doing is very slowly, and I always stress that slow and steady wins the race. The tortoise and the hare story, which has also stood the test of time. Slow and steady wins the race, and in Ayurveda we use Ayurvedic oils that are herbally infused to slowly change the environment of the temple. And when you do that, you change a lot of things, the pH being one. And since everything is energy, these microorganisms also live in certain energy fields. And when you change that energy field, you're no longer a good host. You're not susceptible to the same dis-ease that you would be if you weren't mindful about, say, your diet and your clothing and all of these other things that play a role.
Yeah, I agree with that. Ayurveda emphasizes aligning with nature's rhythms. What daily practices would you recommend for listeners who are just beginning their journey towards holistic healing?
The most important is a morning sadhana practice. This connection is what we call tithing, and our creator doesn't really want our money. He created this whole experience, or she, or however you see it. The creator created this creation, and by giving 10% of our attention, our energy in the mornings at the ambrosial hour, things open up. Our creator opens pathways and gives us wisdom.
Mhm.
And that's part of that Ambhyanga in the morning is also a great practice to change the cellular makeup of the temple. Um, the day runs from 6 to 10 is Vata, 10 to 2 is Pitta, 2 to 6 is Kapha, and it does the same thing over and over again twice a day. And so by eating mindfully, maybe having a light breakfast in the state of Vata, having your biggest meal in the middle of the day where the Agni or the fire and the digestive tract is at its highest is mindful. And then, we call here in the West, we call dinner supper. We used to, and that was because it was sipper. We would sip it. So it was easy to digest, and we would eat that before 6 o'clock. Uh, Hopefully, we're not eating anything after 6 o'clock. Also, today, a lot of the drinks that we drink are cold, and it kind of stunts the digestion. So there's so many things about mixing different foods together, which we also like to do here in the West. We have 5-course meals with I don't know how many ingredients, maybe up to 20 or more. Whereas in Ayurveda, it's better to eat, a few, maybe 2 to 3 ingredients, 4 or 5 at the most, that are symbiotic. And, you wouldn't mix like milk with fruit. They're two different digestive fluids that need to be created. And so the body can only handle so many at once. And something's going to not digest, and that undigested food turns into toxicity, which then needs to be offloaded. So yeah, by following the Ayurvedic principles, just in general, which is very simple, everything is earth, water, fire, air, and ether in Ayurveda. It really simplifies the experience we're having and allows us to take control of that experience.
That is true. And before we wrap up, you filmed a documentary in India uncovering ancient wisdoms. What were some of the most powerful lessons you learned during this experience that you believe are vital for today's world?
The most impactful moment for me and a blessing to me and something that I'm most grateful for on that trip was the 2 days that I got to spend with Swamiji in Coimbatore. The first day I was invited into his home with his family where he was raised, and I had breakfast with him. And then we spoke a little bit about Ayurveda Textiles and the hospital that he has there in Coimbatore. And the second day, he invited me to the temple where I had probably one of the most impactful experiences of my life. I was able to meditate in the temple and spend some time in his quarters with him. But during the interview, he spoke to the mud dye clothing that he was wearing. And, I practiced, as I said, Kundalini yoga. And we were on stage with the cameras all rolling. And he stated very clearly, most people can't wear mud dye because it raises the Kundalini, makes them hot, and makes them uncomfortable. And for me, I knew all this was true through my own experience. But to hear it from somebody like that, somebody who's so connected, so divine, and lives such a divine lifestyle, it was confirmation for me that what I'm doing was needed and was an important dharma for me to exercise in my life and to share with others. And so, yeah, thank you for giving me this platform to speak to this and to plant the seeds in so many minds. I really am grateful for you on that journey as well.
Lovely. That's lovely, Gabriel. And if our listeners want to connect with you or explore about how you are leveraging Ayurveda, yoga for holistic healing as well as environmental sustainability, how they can do that?
The best way right now is through Instagram. And I know that not all countries have Instagram, but if you do, it's auramat underscore or aura underscore mat on Instagram, or Yogi Gabriel 108 on Instagram. And we also have a couple of websites, auramat.com and yogigabriel.com. And the team is working very hard to build many more platforms. There's a teaching platform that we're working on launching next year. There's supposed to be several retreats next year, several yoga festivals. And so really at the beginning stages. And again, I want to give you my gratitude for helping us to spread that word.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gabriel. And we'll make sure to mention all the details in the show notes for our listeners. And thank you so much for sharing your profound journey and the invaluable insights with all of us. Your journey, it's truly inspiring, and the wisdom you have, it's truly inspiring for all of us. So thank you so much for coming on the
Thank
show.
you. No, thank you. Thank you. That's it's a blessing and an honor to be with you. So have a beloved rest of your day. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Gabriel. And thank you to all of our listeners for tuning into this episode of The Mindful Living. Be sure to check out the show notes if you want to learn more about Ayurvedic textiles and also Yogi Gabriel's work. And until next time, stay mindful and be well. This is your host, Sana, signing off.